Alright guys, so currently this is my ice fishing sled setup. Now as you can see here, it works great, it holds all of my gear. But I'm having to throw a bunch of gear on top of each other and I'm risking breaking poles and stuff like that. So I built this a few years ago, and over the past couple of years I've upgraded equipment, I've added new equipment, so now it's time to start all over, start fresh, and rebuild. So that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to build a new sled. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get dusty! Alright, the first step in sled building is figuring out the amount of gear that you're going to use. Is it going to be all your gear? Is it just going to be for a run and gun setup? What do you need? And then once you figure out what kind of setup, pick all your gear, put it off the side that you're going to want in that sled. So obviously I'm going to want everything that's in this sled right now. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to take everything out, move it off, and then we'll get started on designing. And real quick, because some of you aren't going to make it all the way in the video, I don't want you to miss out on these little tips and tricks that I have for you guys. So one thing that I do is I will use these cinch straps, not ratchet straps, cinch straps, to actually strap the shanty to the sled when I'm hauling it back and forth. But what I also use these for is I use these to anchor the shanty to the ice. Now instead of using the strings that come to pull the walls open so the wind doesn't blow it in, I run these instead. And they're more heavy duty, and sometimes I'll actually just use these and actually anchor it to the sled if it's not insanely windy. The other thing is I don't ever go out onto the ice and use my auger, because you saw my auger has the clam plate and the drill. I don't ever go out without this. So this is the handle to the auger, obviously. I set this up, I store this thing so it doesn't take up any space, but I bring it out with me in case I ever need it. If for some reason I didn't know that the battery was already going to die, or I'm drilling way too many holes, or just something happens, I can still drill holes without having to worry. Second thing is, and this has saved me a lot of money, is I bought an 8-pound propane tank. This is a very small propane tank. Not much, doesn't cost a lot to fill. Matter of fact, to fill this is about the price of 2 cans of this, the 1-pounders. But with that being said, I do still bring a 1-pounder out with me in case I ever run out of propane while I'm out there. I'm not going to get cold, because I don't like being cold if I'm in a shanty. So those are a couple quick little things that I do that I think make fishing a little bit easier, enjoyable, and better. With that being said, let's get back to designing this sled. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, I love this riser setup that I have. Now I use all 1¼ inch PVC. PVC has gotten stupid expensive, just like everything else, over the past couple of years. So I'm going to reuse as much of this as possible. I'm also going to reuse this exact same setup because it's just so functional. The auger drops in here. So what I'm going to do is move this over first, because that way I don't know what can sit here that's not going to interfere with the auger. The taller stuff will have to go on the other side. Now, I also want to make sure that I keep in mind how tall it goes. I want this thing to slide under the tonneau cover of my truck and not have to worry about it flying around or people being able to lift over and grab stuff. So, gotta make sure this thing stays under 19 inches because that's the clearance that I have. And we're gonna try to reuse as much of this as possible. Here's the new sled. So this is the Otter Medium. This is, it is about 2 inches more narrower than my old sled, but it's over 12 inches longer. So that's really what I needed. Alright, if you've seen my other sled build videos, you'll know that usually I put skis on the bottom of it. This one I'm not going to, but I don't know how beneficial those really are, to be completely honest and fair. So if I start to see a lot of wear, I'll end up adding skis to the bottom. If you're curious on how I do that, you can watch one of my other videos. You'll see how I do it in those videos. But so what we're going to do is we're going to modify these. Now, if you also watch the other videos, you know that I would say screw all of your joints, don't glue your joints, because maybe later on down the road you need to alter your PVC, and today is the day I need to alter it. So luckily nothing is glued. I just use self-tapping screws in all of my joints to make sure that they hold. So we're going to take this one apart. I have to cut this down and shrink it so we can attach this here. Now I'm going to run some self-tapping screws up through the bottom of the lip of the sled here into the PVC, and I'm also going to use an eye bolt that will run from up here down there, just like I did in the old sled. Now if you're wondering how strong that really is, well, on the other sled I was actually able to use these risers and lift the whole sled with all the gear in it and put it in the back of the truck. So it's very secure doing it that way, so that's the way that I'll do it again. I'm going to cut these, modify these so that they will be screwed right on there. So normally I will cut this on the chop saw, but because I have a small shop and every flat surface becomes a table, my miter saw station is full of all of my gear. So we're just going to cut this over on the bandsaw instead. get the handle to fit back in, I ended up having to cut a little bit off of it, which means that it's just probably going to be a little bit taller if I have to use it ever again, but I just used conduit clips here, clips right in, and as you can see, it works right around this lip. So the back one is back on and together. I know I didn't fully build this, but you can kind of tell what goes on here. A bunch of elbows and all that kind of fun stuff. We're going to try to put the auger in now. I just realized that the auger arm won't be the same because of the fact that this thing is about a foot longer. So I'm going to drop the auger on here and then try to figure out that front end. And as you can see here, this just drops right in here, then hooks onto these when it's up in the air like this, so it doesn't flop and knopper all around. So I gotta figure out this new arm situation. What I think I'm gonna do is I think I'll just attach this side right now, and then just this side, and then build that attachment, or I don't know, I gotta figure this out. I was not prepared for this. New plan here, and it is going to require me to go get some PVC, which I was literally trying to avoid. So what I'm going to have to do to build this new arm is I have this piece here. I'm going to replace this piece right here and move the entire elbow situation here so this can come out like so. I'll probably grab it right there. That wasn't necessary, but you can see this has got this dip right here. So I will end up, I'm just going to build this up with some wood, because other than that, I'm not going to be able to attach this thing here. So to combat that, I just took my straight edge. I'm going to put that here, and that gives me the distance that I need here, and I will screw a board right there just like that, and that'll help stabilize that PVC. Okay, so I'm back from Menards, and while I was driving, I was thinking, and I realized that if I did what I wanted to do, that the rod box wouldn't fit underneath the tonneau cover, so I can't run the pipe all the way from there to there. So did I need to go to Menards and buy that pipe? I don't know. The plan now is I'm going to run this way, elbow up, and then I'll be able to fit my rod box right here instead of having it all the way across. That's the plan now. So I don't think I needed to go to Menards. Don't tell my wife. Now that we have a real plan, let's execute. Now after way too long and an extra trip to Menards, which I did need some of that PVC by the way, because I ended up redoing this entire front portion right here. We have the rod box and the auger all set. Now the rod box, if you're interested in that, I did do a video on how I built that, because that is custom built by Mawam. So now that this thing is ready to go, I have all 4 of my anchor points here for when I tie the shanty on, because I had to anchor this in a little bit this way so the shanty will sit on top. Anywho, we can now start laying things out in here and seeing kind of how I want to have this thing set up. Alright, so here's the plan. The tank is going to sit underneath the auger. As you can see, there's just barely enough room, but there's enough room. So we're going to put the tank under the auger, and then we're going to have the buddy heater right by it. Right here, I have a special idea for right there, so that won't be wasted. My fish finder sits inside a bucket. I don't have the bucket right now, but that's where that's going to sit. I got a fold-up chair and a shovel. That is going to sit in its own storage compartment right here. This back will all be open storage. Right here, I'm going to do a flip-up storage spot for the propane tank and jig stuff, just kind of stuff like that that I want contained. And this whole front section right here, I'm going to have that completely just open to store stuff. I think I'm going to run a divider all the way up. Now, add an acrylic drop-in that had everything cut out for it. I really like that. And I'm going to do the same thing on this too, because I believe I still have enough acrylic. And now we start making some wooden kind of frame that's going to sit in here. I'm going to rip everything down out of some treated 1x. I'm using treated because obviously everything is going to end up getting wet. So I'm using treating as much as I can. And then I'm using that acrylic because obviously it's going to get wet. And if I use plywood, it's going to get destroyed. And acrylic is a lot stronger, and hopefully it's going to be a little bit lighter for what I need. It's a little more durable. I am trying to keep this sled as light as possible, but it's getting a little bit on the heavy side, which I kind of anticipated. So when I run those 1x frames underneath the acrylic, I'm not going to continue them the entire length, everything like that. I'll cut them short. They're basically just going to be there to raise that acrylic up to allow everything to drop into its own place. With the acrylic cut and in place right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out everything that I need to cut out. So like my door, for instance, I'm going to mark that. Any holes that I need to drill in the acrylic for mounting, I'm going to mark those. And then we're just going to put everything on and trace everything out so I know where everything goes. And I can then make all of my cuts. Okay, so I went through, and as you can kind of see in little areas, I did pre-drill all of my holes for my screws to go through, even though they're all self-tappers. And now the thing should be able to be laid in for the final time, get everything where I want, and then start screwing. Alright, so this door is going to be on hinges. So we're going to just measure out some of my hinges look like a good spot. So if you remember this back section right here, I said I was going to do something, and I did. Obviously, you see it right here. So what I did is I ran a 1x up top, and I drilled holes. Why did I drill holes? For these right here. So now all my ice spikes will go right in here and sit beautifully. So I had to use that 1x to actually raise them up off of the bottom of the sled, because I didn't want the tips of those things hitting the sled. But now I have 6 of them, so when I'm on the ice, if I have one missing, I will instantly know. But I think that is going to just be freaking sweet. Alright, we have one more thing to do, and it's something that I did on the other sled, and I'm going to carry it over to this sled. And that is, we're going to put a fog light right at the front that will point out my path. So if I'm walking in or if I'm walking out in the dark, I can see if there's holes that are open or anything like that on the ice. And then people can also see me. So how am I going to power this thing? So I have this little attachment here that my Milwaukee battery will slip into, and I will just hardwire that here, and I will mount this down in here. Now I always have 2 Milwaukee batteries with me, one that will run the Augur, and then I bring an extra drill out because I use this little adapter for the ice spikes for the shanty. So I always have 2 drills, I always have 2 batteries. I'll swap the one battery to this light right here, and I also have a light that I run off Milwaukee top off. I run that in the shanty, so when I'm setting up in the dark, I am swapping my batteries around a bit, but I will always have 2 batteries. So the other thing with the light right here is I've actually used it to shine where I'm setting up in the morning, so I'm able to actually pop the shanty up with this light right here where I can actually see instead of running a headlamp. So let's do that. Let's mount the fog light. Okay, so dip. I'm just going to use wire nuts to wire this together because of the fact that these wires will be the only thing that will keep this inner tray that I made from being able to be removed. So if I ever want to remove it, I'm going to have to disconnect these wires anyway, so I don't want to hardwire it all together with like butt connectors, because then I can't take the tray out. So once this is complete, I'm going to fill this thing up, and we're going to take a look and see how everything fits and sit, test to see if it works. And it does. So it's on, be able to guide me where I want to go, and then when I don't want it, there you go. Maybe eventually I'll wire a switch, but I don't think I'm gonna need it. So let's fill this thing completely up with everything. I didn't like the wires right there, so I just took and drilled 2 holes here and here, and I ran a zip tie around to zip tie it up. If need be, I can just cut that zip tie very easily, but it does get the wires now up and out of the way. Alright, sled has been vacuumed out, everything is stocked in. So let me walk you through and show you exactly where I put everything and how it all fits. So starting up front, obviously I have the light. Now this is all big open storage. I got the camera, I got my cinch straps, the ice scoop. Might move the propane tank, might put that into here, not sure yet. We'll see how things kind of lie. Back here I have the open storage. I got one bag chair and the shovel. I definitely could get 2 bag chairs in there. You can see how much space that I really actually do have there. I can fit quite a bit more in there if need be. You open up this thing. I got my drill for putting the ice spikes in, and then I have my light for the shanty. I got ice cleats in here, a little bit of tackle also. This normally I have a 5-gallon bucket right here. Fish finder goes inside there. Move over here. You saw the ice spikes right here. I did drill a hole, make a spot for that tool to sit that puts those in. I put the old stick-on tape measure from the old sled on here. As you can see from here, I'll probably have to get a new one and put that on, but that just goes up to 24 inches. My little buddy heater and the 8-pound propane tank, which sits right underneath that auger. The auger easily able to come off. Oh yeah, I also have the extra handle right there. Auger sits down, drops in with these elbows, and you do have to have thumb screw right there. Sits on these 2 hooks right here. Move over to here where I have this rod box. If you like the rod box, I did do a video on it. That'll drop down. I do have 3 poles in here at the moment. I usually only carry 2, but that one was in the shop while I was doing it, so it's in there. Got my plastics, got an extra bit of jigs, and that just clips on here. So the old sled I used to be able to get from the tailgate of the truck to the ground on my own. Let's see if I can do it with this one. It has the same gear in it, so it's going to be close to the same weight, but it's a lot bigger, so I don't know if I can get that span on it. Not too bad. It's a little taller than my tailgate, but let's see if I can get it back up without giving myself a hernia. Oh yeah, I'll be able to make that. If I can get it up there, no problem. I can get to my top of my tailgate, no problem. Ah!